Good evening, everybody. My name is Christina, and I'm with Atlantic Institute. And tonight we have a very interesting dialogue conversation. It's very educational for us. We have some information that we might not know about, and it would be a day in the life of our first responders. And so our first responders are those that are involved in the police, sheriff's office, fire, EMS, EMTs, usually 911 dispatchers. Come to find out also like Life Flight, some other different organizations are also considered first responders. And so we thought it would be kind of interesting to interview and get to know what it's like to be a first responder. I will tell you, like, we just completed in this house, we now have a firefighter. And we just completed 100 hours of firefighter one training over here. And now I have I live with a full-fledged firefighter. So all of our smoke detectors and all of our fire extinguishers and everything has been completely updated. And we are now completely up to code, and we have the 6 o'clock alarms that go off to do time checks, and we have 6 a.m. ones, I think, that wake us up in the morning. And I thought it was kind of interesting to learn about this stuff because not everybody is cut out for the on-call. It's the on-call lifestyle, and it takes some adjustment, and it takes some learning, and it takes some support. For instance, I actually, besides the Atlantic Institute hat that I wear, I'm also a birth doula, which means that I support women and families when they find out they're pregnant and through their pregnancy and through labor and birth. And I have a client that's actually due in this week, and she's experiencing some things. I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to be here tonight because I'm on call, and I live that on-call life sometimes. What that looks like here right now is I have extra food in the fridge. I've went and I've gotten everything anybody could need. I have my bag ready to go. I have fuel in the van, and I have my clothes ready by the bathroom so I can quick jump in the shower, change, and get out the door. And I have my phone waking me up, and every ding that goes off, I check it quick to make sure, that she's not in need at this moment. So she should be good for the next hour. But the on-call lifestyle is not for everybody. And so it's kind of interesting to get a glimpse into what it's like, which is why I share that with you. So we wanted to interview a couple different people. So with us, we have Tanny, and she is an EMS. We also have retired Fire Chief Joe Floyd, and we also have Sergeant Shun with us. And so I'd like to go ahead and let them each introduce themselves. Tanny, if you want to go ahead and go first, that would be great.
Sure, absolutely. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Tanny. My last name is Thomas Tedford, and my official name at work is Assistant Chief Thomas Tedford. I work for Lexington County EMS, and I am a community paramedic, and I work in a bureau with 2 others. And I've been a paramedic, or I've been an EMT, which is an emergency medical technician, for the last 15 years. 13 of those years, I am an EMT medic. So you have your EMT basic, which is basic life support, and then an EMT medic, which is advanced life support or a paramedic. And so I've been doing this in EMS, which is emergency medical services, so kind of like the big umbrella. So I've been working in EMS for the past 15 years. And it's great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And then retired Chief Joe Floyd, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Yeah, I was 31 years with the Columbia City Columbia Fire Department, which we cover all of Richland County through contract with the Richland County. I rose through the ranks from firefighter all the way up to assistant chief, which was at the time was number 2 position in the department. Worked my way up the rank from firefighter to captain, battalion chief, shift chief, then assistant chief, and so worked in pretty much every department or dabbled in every department within the department, from human resources to to special operations, to, like I say, hazardous material rescue, heavy rescue, water rescue. We did first responders. I worked, my favorite, throughout all the years, my favorite department and what I really worked in was human resources, which involved training and developing programs for the department. And over the hiring and promotional process, which I found was rewarding, because you were able to take something, and when you finished, I felt like you left the department better. People were better trained, people were better informed. When you have better men and women, and they're more educated and more experienced and trained, you have a better department. And so I really did like that part of the job.
Very cool. Thank you. And Sergeant Shun, if you could introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Sergeant Steve Shun. I'm with the Aiken County Sheriff's Office. I've been with them 20 plus years now. I started as a road deputy and working the beat cars, they call it, just late nights, the shift rotation. I worked up corporal, sergeant, and then lieutenant on the road. And about 7 years ago, this position came open, and which is with Special Operations Division. It took me off the road, but it put me into where instead of seeing everyone at their worst day, I actually can see people at a good day, dealing with the community, with some of the things that I do with community events, things like this event here, and being able to go out and educate people with safety and opportunities, and just interact with them. Been in parades, all kinds of wonderful things on this side. So I enjoy this type of work. But yeah, I always look forward to the next adventure with the work that I do and the people I meet, and it's always a good time.
Very cool. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go into a couple of questions that we had, and then those that are on the call listening in, if you have some questions or anything you'd like to learn, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can go ahead and raise your hand. So the first thing that I was curious of is, we kind of sometimes always want to know what led you to this field of work. And like, I've learned I've learned that over here, like when it comes to dealing with firefighters, you know, it was 100 hours, and it was a Tuesday, Thursday, and every Saturday that he had to go to training. But I also know that in other areas, there are some that are the professional firefighters that have like a full-on Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 training and different things like that. So I'm curious, like, what the training was that you had to do for your particular field. So like, what led you to this field? Some of you, I'm thinking, you might not even have known that you were going to be in this field for as long as you were. You might have just thought, oh, this is kind of neat, you know, let me go ahead and start here. And then it kind of ends up becoming your entire profession. But then, like, just so that the public is kind of aware of like the work that you had to put into this, because I think sometimes that's a missing for people to really understand the amount of work that's put into all this. So if we could go ahead, we'll start with Tanny first. We might just go in that rotation, Tanny, and then Joe, and then Sergeant Shun.
Okay, all right. So what led me into EMS, or emergency medical services? I was working with animals for about 15 years. I was an animal assistant, a vet assistant, and I wanted to do something a little bit deeper, a little bit more meaningful. And so emergency medical services looked interesting. I was still working full-time as an EMT, and then I did night classes. So to become an EMT basic, it was, and I'm kind of making this up because it was 15 years ago, but it was two 2 nights a week, 6 hours a night. Yes, something like that. So it's like 10 or 12 hours a week. And it was, yes, sir. And my chief telling me to lock the door because I'm in his office. So 10 to 12 hours a week, and it was 3 to 4 months long. And so however many hours that was. And I remember it was about $1,500 to take the class at a local technical college. And I stayed as an EMT basic, emergency medical technician basic, for a year. And then I went on to paramedic school. Paramedic school took a year. And this was 14 years ago. We were in school Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 8 hours. And this was almost 7 or 8 months worth of school. And then there was over 800 hours of precepting. So riding on ambulances with different paramedics, pretending that you were in charge of the patient and the crew chief of the call as you're still learning these skills in school. And we couldn't practice any more than we had already learned. And then they would stop us before we were going to make a mistake or do something wrong. And so it was on the job learning. And I remember I had off 2 days a month for 8 months. It was the hardest and the best year of my life. And then lots of testing, written tests and practical application tests, 15 different skills. It was challenging because I'm not necessarily a book smart person. Learning does not come easily for me. I'm more hands-on, and if I understand it, I can retain it. So it was challenging and very rewarding. The evolution now of paramedicine, now our little, our young medics, they have it so easy. They get paid, listen to this, guys and gals, 2 days off a month I had, right? They get paid to go to school Monday through Friday, and they do not have to be on a truck. They do not have to work as an EMT while they are going to school, and they get paid. And then they precept and they get paid for that. We did not get paid to precept. And as it should be, though, every year we should improve, right? And evolve, and the process should get better, and that outcome should be more. So I just, when I hear them complaining when they do, which is seldom, I remind them back in the old days, uphill both ways. It was a lot more challenging. But it is 1,200 hours of training to be a paramedic. Yeah.
Yeah. And those, I think you have to really know what you're going into, or I don't know, do you fully know what you're going into, or do you don't?
No. And that is a disservice that we are doing as veterans now in the field to our new people that are coming in that have no idea what they're getting into. TV shows glamorize and give an expectation that is will never be met. And physically, we cannot run exciting real calls that require, a 2-hour adrenaline dump afterwards to recover over and over and over. I mean, we can't. Some people are made for that, jumping out of the planes, but the majority of humanity are not daredevils living off of adrenaline. Dare I say, I have no statistics to back that up. That's just, from my heart. And we see a lot of things that are very similar, all first responders and last responders, that are similar to combat veterans. And if we don't know what we're getting into, and then we don't know how to process what we see, it can be damaging. It sure can. So we are getting a whole lot better collectively, and my service in particular. But as a whole, peer support, SC Leap with law enforcement, and SC Fast with firefighters. And thank goodness both of those also let EMS come in, and fire and dispatch. So peer support is huge. No, we have no idea. I would say majority of people do not know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
Chief, retired Chief Floyd, if you could go ahead and share.
Yeah, I just want to support her on what she said. So often, so many people don't know what they're getting into, and it's important to have a support group. And I was kind of like 20 years into my career before we even started to recognize that. And I know on the EMS side, the burnout and the pressure is far greater than at the fire department. It is. And because I've seen them. I've seen EMS people just burn out so quickly. And even on the firefighter side, I see guys have to retire because they can't take what they've seen, and it bothers them. Some people are wired different. People are just wired different.
Mhm.
Some can handle it better than others, and that's just a fact. But we all in some way are affected. And I didn't know it was affecting me until we had a support group. And then I realized I did have some problems. But anyway, now I got into the fire service. I'll be frank, I needed a job. That's, and the fire department was hiring. I knew some people who worked there. They talked about, the shift work. They said it's a 24-hour shift, y'all 48. They said it had good benefits, and I said, well, I'll give it a try. And I made a career out of it. I really did enjoy what I did, and in some ways still do. But the training, when I first went into the fire service in 1975. Okay, so that's been a while ago, and it's changed over the years as far as the requirements of NFPA standards, OSHA standards. It has really changed, and for the better. Because when I walked in the door, I had no training, none. They told me to get on back of the tailboard, and that's what we did. We rode the back of the tailboard, and you had to hang on. That was the first thing they told me. All you got to do right now is hang on. And it was basically on the job training. We did go to the South Carolina Fire Academy. They did train you in the station. They trained you at the Fire Academy, and they had those standards. But and that's one reason I really enjoyed the training and human resources part of it and developing programs, because I experienced that. I knew something was missing, at least here in South Carolina, in Columbia, South Carolina. And because when I first went to the department, it was frowned upon if you took the time to put on an SCBA mask. It was you just killing time, what they would say. But we all know now that it's important that you take that step to protect yourself. And anyway, so but that's how I got in, and the training has evolved over the years. We put together the Columbia Fire Department. We have put together. They may have extended it now, but we put together a recruit program. We put together a training program. Columbia Fire Department was they're all capable of training their own. So many firefighters become instructors. I was one, but we had when I retired, we had put together a 16-week recruit school, and it basically taught the basics, from basic firefighting to first responders to hazardous materials, all those basic things you need to know when you first come in the door. And then from there, you have your training for different things to go in more in depth than what you do, like high level rescue, water rescue, confined space rescue, all those things require different skills and specific skills, and you need to be very good at what you do. Automobiles, using the tools, and using common sense. Okay. Just a quick story. We use the jaws of life, right, to open, cut cars open and all that. And I was the battalion chief at the time, and I had a driver. We were the first on the scene, and we had the tools on the truck, and he was getting out the tools and all that kind of stuff. And I said, his name was Freddie. He was my driver. I said, Freddie, just get a pry bar. I bet that door will open, and it did. So, but anyway, you didn't need all those things, but you just teaching those things, experience will tell you that. But anyway, and then from there you have different training to move up in rank. If you want to become a driver, there's training for that. If you become a specialist and all the rescue things, and then if you want to become an officer, there's training in that. I put together an officer candidate school, and that was very helpful in the Columbia Fire Department, because before they didn't have any training for officers unless you went outside. And we put that officer candidate school together. We pull in courses from the National Fire Academy and the South Carolina Fire Academy and other places, bigger departments that had their own programs. We will pull those in and train guys to be officers. And so, and the important part about that, from firefighter to engineer, which is driver, to rescue, to officers, the hazmat, those things, I did job task analysis on each one of those positions. And we used the firefighters that were there, what do you think is important of the job? It took me 2 years to do each position. And so what the problem we were having with the promotions was the city of Columbia was going to court a lot, because they didn't think promotions were fair. And so in order to alleviate that, I did those job task analysis to show people what was important for the job. And it held up in court because my work was backed up by industrial psychologists. And anyway, that's another whole story. But that got us out of legal problems with people suing, because we could prove this is what you had to do for the job. Any questions? Anyway.
No, very, very interesting. I know it was interesting to learn on my end here that you can only perform certain tasks. If you're not been, like, there's certain things you cannot do until you've been trained to do. Right. So it was like, you can't just go run in and go take somebody out of you. There's different things. And I was like, wow, there's a lot to that.
Yeah, it is. And it's not just for saving and helping people, but to protect yourselves.
Right.
Yeah. And so, following all the safety protocols. But anyway, moving up through the ranks, developing those positions. And nowadays in most departments that I'm aware of, and that's another thing I did after I retired, I went consulting. I traveled the country to do consulting and to help departments that were seeking accreditation. And so, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
You're consulting.
Yeah. So, so developing those programs and helping people move up the ranks, and making sure that there's no adverse impact on certain people whether it be minorities, whether it be females or whatever, making sure those things aren't happening. Because if you're having you can have adverse impact if you can prove that what they need to do for the job is what they got to do for the job. If they can't do it, then you can have some adverse impact. But you got to make sure that the people are being able to perform those skills. So anyway, but the training for the job is I know what I can say. In most departments, if you want to move up in ranks now, it helps to have a degree to move, say, like in administrative positions like assistant chief and chief and so forth, because you do need that administrative background. The fire department is one of the few careers now you can still get in the bottom floor and move up through the ranks. But if you want to be like say assistant chief or chief of the department, you will need a degree. And so that's one thing I had to work for on my days off. And the National Fire Academy had a program, and they worked with universities. And I worked through the University of Cincinnati with the National Fire Academy to work towards a degree. And like I said, if you're going to move up in ranks now, you're going to need that degree if you want to be, chief or whatnot. So, any questions?
Very cool. Very interesting. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go over to Sergeant Shun and get your input.
Well, as far as going into law enforcement, I've always wanted to do it ever since I was little. Dad was in it, so uncle, so I had family in it. But everyone told me not to go into it because it doesn't make any money. So I proved them wrong. Still haven't made any money, but it's something good to do. But as far as our training, first of all, I want to commend the other two on there because I couldn't run into burning buildings, and they have to deal with all the pain and agony on the EMT side that they deal with it for long. So I commend both of them and what they've done and what they do. But with us, our training when I started was 8 weeks of academy up in Columbia, and we go there, spend 8 weeks there. We've learned laws, how to talk to people through scenarios. We go through our driving, our shooting, our defensive tactics, and things like that. And then we come back to our agencies, and then whatever our agencies decided at that time for our field training. And then we go from there, work our areas once we get off that training, and then we're solo officer. And so that's one thing that they do now. They still do have, when I started, I had a buddy who graduated the academy, and that night was going to be his first night. And he wasn't going to have a field training officer. He was going straight to the road by himself. He'd have a sergeant working the other side of the county, but that's how it was. So things have changed a lot of ways since then. Now our training is, it's 12 weeks now. We have 4 in-house where we train our new recruits in-house by academy standards. They supply the programs and we train them here. Then we add a 5th week, which is for our in-house training for certifications that they'll need when they get out of the academy. They go to Columbia for 8 weeks, do the driving and shooting and scenarios and law and get further education there. And when they come back, they have 440 hours of field training time that they have to ride with someone. And that's where we can assess and determine, do they fit the job? Are they understand what it really is now? A lot of people don't realize, it was said before, that you get a lot off the TV and they don't realize you have a lot of paperwork that people don't realize. You have, you're seeing things that it's real and it's not made up for TV and has all that. It looks better than it does in real life. So we go through that, and then after that, then we can go to advanced training. I've gone on to become an instructor in different facets of the job, defensive tactics, firearms, taser. So we go through different things, and then we can bring it back to the agency and help train here, because every year we have to go through certain requirements for additional training to keep our certifications as law enforcement, and to make sure that we're able to continue on our jobs and our careers. Our one thing though is usually if you can make 5 years, then you're pretty well set on your career. But it's making those 5 years sometimes, because it's a heavy reality sometimes when you're dealing with, and it just depends upon what's going on. Sometimes you get those tough nights and you get them one right after the other, and then other times you won't see them for a couple months. So it just depends upon the situation, but it definitely is worth all the hard work and stress and everything else. So
You remind me, my brother-in-law is Rutherford County Sheriff's Office. He's a sheriff's officer over in Rutherford County, and there have been times that Rutherford County, North Carolina, has come down to Greenville when an officer has been down, and they've participated in the procession lines, and they've participated in all that stuff. So I think even in all three professions that you guys have, I enjoy the seeing of the brotherhood.
yes.
And, and I don't know if we have brotherhood and sisterhood now, or if, I just know it's like that connection, that family, that understanding, because like you all everybody gets it and they understand.
It's with all the groups, I think, because
Yeah.
we've had one that was just here recently was firefighter and law enforcement, and it hit both realms. So but yes, we all tie in very much together. So
I just figured out that was 11. If you did 8 hours, 440 hours, if you did 8 hours a day times 5 days a week, that was 11 weeks of riding along. I was like, wow, that's a long time. You better be sticking with it.
It gets tight, and luckily now we switch up. So every 4 weeks they have a different field training officer.
Right.
Or you were stuck with the same person. Sometimes the personalities don't match. So, but you still get through. But it makes for long days and long nights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we have about 20 minutes left. I want to see if we can do like 2 minutes or so in each of these. So if you could share with us how you balance the work and family life with the on-call life. I know I can balance it here because I don't take on a lot of clients, and I have a very supportive spouse. And so, and I've got it to where I can order pizza from a hospital room and have it sent to the house, or order Chinese food and have it sent to the house if somebody needs something. And I have a strong community that can fall in. Like tomorrow is my daughter's 15th birthday, so I've got it set that cake's in the freezer. If I'm gone at a birth, my friends will come and soup her up and take her out to dinner and just keep going like normal business as usual, right? And even if I'm not there, so that stuff can still proceed and go on. So without a supportive environment, I would struggle. So how do you guys balance that work family life with that on-call life? Or how did you balance it in the past? If you could go, Tanny.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And for anybody out there who's interested in pursuing a career in law enforcement or fire service or EMS dispatch, and even last responders, which are our coroners, our deputy coroners, crime scene investigators. Yeah, there's a lot of unsung heroes out there. And thank you, Sergeant Shun, for the shout out. I recently completed Lexington County Citizens Academy. So it was like 8 weeks of learning just a tiny little bit years, and you don't know what you don't know. Balancing that, communication is huge. Communication, knowing not to plan anything when you are working. You can get off on time 30 times in a row, and the moment you make a plan, and I believe in the Trinity, and I am not superstitious. And then I'm going to say, but we tease and say the EMS gods are not being kind, because you will catch a late call. You will. I don't think I've ever not, when I've verbally out loud said I had plans. A lot of grace. your family and friends need to give you space, but you need to ask for that space. So that goes back to the communication. It's I still don't have it. I still don't have that balance. And every day is work, but I'm getting better at it because I'm communicating, I'm expressing my needs. I use my words and instead of not and being upset. The balance with home and work for me comes from the balance here in my personal space with my body, with my mind, and it being connected. Many days my girls would say, how was work? And I'd say, I didn't see anybody dead today. So they knew it was a good day. How many dead people? Oh, 5. Oh, leave her alone. And so if my perception, if my outlook is good, if I'm reframing and in a healthy spot, then I'm balancing well. So it all starts and ends here with me. Self-awareness.
Very true. Retired Chief Floyd.
There are times you can balance it pretty good. I worked a 24-48 shift for a long time until I got promoted up to administrative positions. And even then I was on call 24/7. But there are times, one, I have a great wife. She's always been supportive. She married me she knew I was a firefighter when she married me. And so, but you do have to leave the home to do your job, to go out there in the community to do it. And she knew that, kids knew that. And so she's been great. And the kids have been great. So, and they all understood that. But like I said, there's always the unexpected, especially when they knew I was on shift, they knew I was gone. They just knew I was gone for those 24 hours. But there's always the worry, like the first day as a captain, my first shift as a captain was Hugo when it came through. And I had to leave my family, I made sure they were okay before I left, because when I went outside the house at night, a tree had fallen on every house but ours. And, luckily the only thing we didn't have power. So, but they knew I had to go and she was going to be okay. I had some people who were going to check on them and make sure they were okay, while I was on shift. But that's a fact. You just have to go do the job, and they know that. And then there's, those calls in the middle of the night when you have a major hazmat factory burning or a school burning, or, you get the call and you have to go out in the middle of the night, when you're in those administrative positions, and then you assume command. And then, so they knew that was going to happen too. So you may be at a ball game and you have to leave. And it just takes, like she said, Tammy said, communication and understanding. And, eventually you're going to retire like I did, and you'll spend more time with them. The ball games you're going to miss, there are things you're going to miss, and you can't ever get those back, but you try to get what you can. And like I say, I was very fortunate to have a family that understood. And, that's basically all I can say is how I balanced it. We all handled it pretty well, I think.
Very good. Very good. I know I was at Memorial Hospital for 2 days with a client, and he packed everybody up and brought them up to come see me and grab fast food, and we ate dinner in the parking lot real quick so everybody can just kind of connect again. It was like, pack the bags. I had some extra clothes, and I've done this before without a supportive spouse, and now I've done it with a supportive spouse, and I prefer it with a supportive spouse, because a non-supportive spouse really just made it more difficult, way more difficult than it needed to be. So, Sergeant Shun, if you could share.
Sure. I think they both nailed it on the head. Is communication is the biggest thing. When you don't talk about everything with your family, but you can let them know, what mood you're in or things are going, but let them know that you got to work, that you have to do this or that. A lot of times the freedom that we have, when I was a shift lieutenant and everything, like holidays would come around, if my shift was working the holidays, we have a little bit more freedom where I would rotate the shift so that they were closer to home. So in between calls, they could go and stop by and see the family or talk to them or whatever. With us, when you talk about communication, is letting them. Technology is great now. You have a cell phone, you text, I'm okay, after everything settles down, and let them know that, yes, I'm still here, gonna be here for a while, and that's a good thing too, but yeah, shift work, it is, when you're having to leave at home at 2 o'clock in the morning and they hear the sirens and everything as you're leaving, and always wondering, and but you know, you let them know and sit down and talk to them before and after, and even in ours, we have to have plans for even just going to Walmart sometimes. So
Mhm.
you never know what you're going to run into. But it's communication, I think, is the biggest thing, and letting them know that dad needs some sleep time for a little bit, but then you've got to be 100%, no matter how tired you are at times, say, okay, I'm yours. I'll do whatever you need, because the county had me yesterday or this morning, and now you got me. So trying to make the most of that.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So one of the things that Atlantic Institute does is we do interfaith and intercultural dialogue work, and South Carolina has become much more diverse in the past couple of years. So how have you guys been trained to handle those that have different faiths and cultures? Because I'm sure sometimes that you're not running across just all of the same type of faith and culture. So I'm sure there's a lot of differences in what you've run across. So I'm curious how you guys handle that.
So with EMS, I remember just a small little section when I was in EMT school of different cultures, and I can't even remember the chapter name, special considerations maybe. And it wasn't very useful because obviously I can't remember it. What I learned was by watching and by experiencing. When you're on a scene, and if the people with the family member, I'm completely making this up, are in the home, all their shoes are off, you know, and they're wearing a particular hat or dress. Okay, well then that's what is acceptable there. So if I'm allowed, I will take my shoes off as I enter their home. Granted, it's not, you know, an immediate life threat, which I've done before. Can I take, please, right? So it's just awareness of maybe what one is doing or not doing, saying or not saying. It would probably be a 2-year class on different cultures and what to do, not to do, to offend or to belong to. We're so beautifully diverse, and thank goodness we are. But we don't have a whole lot of training, educational classroom training on customs and cultures and ethnicities and what to or not to do. So it's for those that understand the importance of it, and even just to not want to offend, to not get a complaint, right?
Mhm.
It's to observe and to be mindful and respectful. And, you know, some customs like eye contact, some do not. How do we know this? Well, they're not looking at us, but or they'll talk to my male partner, but I'm in charge, right? Okay, you know, because the important thing is that the patient gets the help they need. So it's understanding and compassion with whoever's around us that is not, you know, that doesn't eat a hot dog like I do, you know, or you know, somebody eats a pizza with a fork, or they pick it and fold it in half. I mean, either way, the pizza's getting eaten. So it's just a matter of watching. That was an odd analogy, but
That was a good one though, because you sometimes look at that person and go, why are they doing that? That was good. All right, retired Chief Floyd.
Well, I can't say I've ever had any training in it at all either. I just never covered it. Uh, but I would say this, I have run into people of different faith, different lifestyles, and it boils down to showing respect. If you show people respect, they respond pretty well. And that's one thing we do teach in training, is dealing with conflict and how to deal with conflict, as far as looking at the issue, finding out what the problem is. Okay. Somebody may be upset that you stepped on their flowers, but identifying what that problem is, and then be able to address it, and then showing respect, and at times apologize. I'm sorry, I didn't really mean to do that. Letting them know that nothing was intentional. But again, showing respect for their beliefs. Everybody has a right to worship, where, what they may, and then, like I say, there's also just different lifestyles, and not necessarily looking down on people, for however they live, but just, again, showing respect. Because the bottom line is, our job is there to help them, first to save a life, and like I say, in the case of the fire service, and then to save property. And so that's, again, my response would be that just show respect. And for me, in my experience, has always worked. So.
Mm-hmm. And Sergeant Shun?
I was trying to think also of any particular class. We go over training, like they both said, communication and respect are the biggest things, because the culture around everywhere is so diverse. To try and learn every single faith or culture, how they interact, would be mind-boggling. And so the one thing that we teach people is, one, basically to treat them how you want your mother treated, and then also to be able to communicate with them. I mean, you don't get a lot of things, you get more with honey than you do with, all the bad stuff. So, and we do see a lot of the bad stuff. So it's just being able to communicate is one of the biggest things. We've been focusing a lot more dealing with our mental health right now, because that is such a big thing. And I think that goes in all the cultures. It's everywhere. So dealing with that helps us deal with some of the other aspects, because we are dealing with how to communicate better, how to treat people better, because when we show up, first thing we get a lot of times is everyone's going to jail or whatever, even from the little kids. So we try, and that's why I like the position I'm in, is that we get to come and do the community things and show them that, yes, we're just like everyone else, and that we're here to assist and still do our job. Sometimes we do have to make those arrests, but a lot of times just communicating and talking to people is the best thing, and treating them how you'd want to be treated also.
Yeah, very true. I was a foster parent for quite a few years, and I know we had to do cultural sensitivity trainings. We had to do a lot of classes and different things to fully understand and fully learn how to communicate. And communication, I know, is really huge, and learning the question to ask and how to ask it, and just giving the respect, like saying, can I shake your hand? Or do you mind if I, check your heart rate, or anything like that. We have about 5 more minutes left, so I thought I would just check and see if anybody that's on here had any questions. I thought I would just check and see. I didn't know if anybody would, because I know we kind of covered quite a bit. And one of the last questions, I guess I'd like to just ask and just see is, we had a couple of questions left, and one of them was really how.
I think Cheryl wanted to ask something.
Okay, go ahead, Cheryl. Sorry, I didn't see your note. Your
I want to
hand.
know if the fire stations really do have a fire dog.
Some stations do. You know, they don't use them in like they used to, like Dalmatians. But yes, there are a few stations that have had Dalmatians. We did have a bulldog, and he would actually catch the bus from the North Columbia station, and the two stations shared them. He would actually catch the bus at North Columbia station, ride the bus to the Eau Claire station and get off, and they would keep him wild. Then he'd get on the bus and ride back. And so yeah, we do have dogs. So, but not all the stations do.
Cute, cute. All right. Anybody else have a question? I have everybody minimized, so I have to scroll back and forth quick to like look and see. Go ahead, Laura.
If just because so many people want to try to help you or support you, if you had like one wish from the community to best show support, what would that be?
Oh, awesome question.
Well, I want to tell you right now, my biggest thing personally is just having a smile. Just a smile or hi or whatever, and just knowing that we're here to help, and I'm not here to do anything bad, because I would personally, that's the biggest thing. I love seeing a person smile. That's why I'm so glad we got rid of the mask. I see people smile again, just like here. We might be distant, but it's still, and that's a big thing. Just because you're having a good day, and I'm going to have a good day if you have a smile on your face.
Yes, very true.
So I would. Here's what I like. I like what Sergeant Steve said there. But get out of the way. Okay, if you're responding to a call, we got to have people get out of the way. You know, because so many people don't do that anymore, and the time that EMS or sheriff's department or the fire department has, it's not your time to waste. It's somebody else's time that needs help, and to get those services there is important. So that's my pet peeve.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. And my wish for the community would to support us, and I'm going to just speak collectively with all first and last responders. My wish would be that the community would truly want to know what we do, want to be curious, listen with compassionate curiosity. And then when we share what we do, which I think we need to do a better job at publicizing and explaining what our work is like, EMS in general. But then once we share what we do, to understand it, and then with that understanding will come grace when we need it, because we are human, we are fallible, we feel, obviously. And I think in this, especially in this community day and age of where I'm just going to sue you, I'm going to sue you. And,
Yeah.
you know, we can't even be human. We can't make mistakes now. And Sergeant Shun, it makes to know that when you show up, to know that you have a heart of service, yet when you show up, someone's thinking that you're there to do something bad. Well, newsflash, don't do anything bad and the cops won't be there to arrest you, right? And just,
That's right.
Right? Common sense. So yeah, just understanding. I just wish the community could understand us more, because we're all on the same side, you know, and we want the community to be well. And this is why we, you know, some of us choose this profession. So compassion, curiosity, and grace.
Yeah.
That's not too much to ask for.
No.
No.
Half the room.
We had, I don't know if you saw in the news at all, this morning, I don't know how far it's broadcast, but we had, I live in Hartwell, Georgia, and we had somebody that was going 125 miles per hour down Interstate 85 at like 10 o'clock last night. and hit a guardrail, hit another car crossing over the bridge up by the state line, hit the guardrail, jumped out, jumped in the river. And so they had to call everybody out, and search and rescue had to search the water, and they finally found his body at 2 a.m. And all I thought was, man, that sucks. You don't know what you're coming up to, and you don't know, you might just, they spent all night with lights and boats out and everything, and looking all night. I mean, and then, they closed the interstate and it's just like, wow. And so I get, people need to get, like, you come home from that, you kind of have to decompress for a little bit, because it was a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot that you're not always, you don't know what you're going into all the time.
No.
So
I would say, this, a second, this, the difference between a rescue mission and a recovery mission are vastly different. And so, people need to keep that in mind too. And both can take the toll, but a recovery mission can really just take the toll on you.
yeah, and I was thinking, I know people working that night shift sometimes are used to working that night shift, that their bodies are used to it. But I know for me, like if I'm at a birth and I'm going on 24 hours, my body starts to get, like, you get lightheaded, you get a little fuzzy, you get a little, like you just, like, you need that. And I'm thinking, trying to be alert and it's a lot of work. It's a lot. So, do we have any other questions before it's been about an hour? So I just want to go ahead and wrap it up.
Thank you.
So any other questions real quick before we end?
I want to know if firemen really are good cooks.
Yes. Definitely yes. Some of the best cooks in the world are in the firehouse. And I'm one
I
of them.
believe it.
Oh, you're one of them. Okay.
One of the things that I am doing actually here in Hartwell is I'm in Hart County, Georgia, is I'm coordinating and helping to plan a first responder family fun day in September. And so one of the things I'm trying to do is get churches to help so that the firemen don't have to cook on that day, so that they can all get a well-deserved break and get volunteers that'll come in and help cook. And we have baseball games going on. We'll have teams against teams and kickball for the kids and bouncy houses. So what's one of the big things that I'm working on here in September to get going. And although I know that between the sheriff's office and the city police and between the fire department, I'm sure there's a lot of good guys that like to get out there and grill. I just thought I'd love for them to just all get a break and get the community to show how much they support them.
It's always welcome. It is. It really is. And it just shows the gratitude that the community has.
Yeah. So
This right here even does a lot. Even though it's a small little group, it still means a lot. And it shows that interest. And from here, people go and talk about it, and it gets bigger. And so
Right.
that's the thing, because like I said before, we're all in this together. And I police where I live. They work where and do what they do where they live. So it's our community also, and we want everyone to know that we're a part of it, and we are here to help not just us, but to help the whole community and to make it better so that the community can have the fun, have the picnics, have all that stuff. And that's what it's all about. So
very true. And I do believe too, sometimes even if it's a small group, it's what we've all learned and taken in, and the information that we all then share with somebody when they say something, or if somebody doesn't know or isn't aware, even though it's all education, it's all learning and educating. So thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. If we have no other questions,
Christina, I want to say something. I want to
Yes.
thank everybody for coming as well, participants as well as presenters. My husband was an EMT and a dispatcher for a while. And Joe, I agree with you. The South Carolinians do not know how to get over and get out of the way. And I think there should truly be a campaign on it, a statewide campaign on, it's not your life that's being inconvenienced. It could be somebody's life altogether, sort of thing. And so I do agree with that. And I want to say thank you all for doing this. It meant a lot to me as well, even though I couldn't participate in all of it. But I want to say thank you all. Thank you all for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I will just say, I just realized, Laura, that I had everything minimized, so I just realized you had a question, or you had some stuff in there before, which I didn't see. But yeah, I think you asked it, so thank you. I appreciate it.